Conference will now be recorded.
Oh, yeah, that's sticker.
Another add-on to what? So there's another option with the healthcare plans. They're adding another option. Is that, did everybody get one?
Hi, how are you? Look at you, you're fully mobile. Yes. I mean, how's the pain level? Pain level. What's your pain level? And were you in constant pain before?
Yep.
Oh, so well worth it.
It's 0 unless I want to do something fast.
You'll get there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
May 9th, it better be. My first one. I have plans.
A couple minutes until we start. So we'll go by the computer time, which is 6:13.
Let me just. do my hair.
I was through a class all day yesterday. So excited. Manager training every 5 years. Standardized testing, color in the. Okay. I got 7. I got both. Yeah. The same girl that I took it from years ago, she knows like a service. Yeah. And I just love her. I can listen to her all day. And she basically gives you all the test questions. Because a lot of this stuff. Temperature.
Rob nobody's getting appointed.
She helps. But also, if you get to it 3 times now, I don't think I need.
You did agree?
But you have to get a testing facility and never really do it if you don't do it through a class.
I think Bob
And I
wants
don't
to
even know
put in
where.
a headlock.
Maybe, there might be one of those. Scratch paper.
Oh, I got a pretty handout. Take one and pass it on. I mean, well, I made a janky one and then Great West Engineering. It's huge.
Well, it's just the same one that was in our book.
Hi, how are you? Good, how are you?
Force to flowing in the river.
All right, we are at 6:15, so if I can get everyone's attention, we'll start the meeting and we will do a roll call of the commission. We'll sit down because I'm getting ahead of myself. So Christy Ranson.
Here.
John Way.
Here.
Nikki Hankins.
Here.
Mitch Abernathy. Here. Corey Hardy.
Here.
And I am Mayor Lisa Roberts. Thanks for joining us this evening. Right now, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. Thank you for joining us. I am pull up the commissioner packet here. Oh, oops. So we can see the screen. Okay, so there's our agenda. We can go to other items. Okay, we'll figure that out. Okay, so meeting minutes.
I move to accept the meeting minutes. Second.
Any discussion, edits? Okay. Call the vote, Commissioner Ranson?
Aye.
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now our next agenda item is public comment on non-agenda items. And actually, I'll just make a comment generally. We are using a new camera system, because we had gotten feedback that the microphones that we previously used did not always work great. It was sometimes hard to hear. So to remedy that, this is a trial and error attempt here and see if this works. However, the way that the camera works, it takes a little bit to pan. So if you do have a public comment, I ask that you stand or raise your hand, be recognized by the chair, stand, pause, state your name, and then give your comment. That also leads to, please wait to be recognized by the chair before you give your comment. Okay, so then that way we can just have really good audio for playback and other things. So there's not a lot of interference. So with that all said, do we have any public comment on non-agenda items? Going once, going twice, public comment on non-agenda items. Hearing none, I will close public comment to non-agenda items. Our next item is the claims, and this is actually kind of the sole reason we added a second meeting to the month, is to get claims paid appropriately. So any comments or questions on claims? I will do my best to answer that. Yes, sir.
Quick questions.
Yep.
We have Starlink internet here?
We do. It's one of the things that I'm going to be looking at, getting quotes from Three Rivers to see the difference. DIS was actually here today, and they said they have actually very few clients that use Starlink. So the majority of them use whatever, fiber optic base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is this global cable for $539?
Let's look.
That's power cord for the new generator. I need a plug to finish that off, and that generator be operational at the well house if power goes down.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
Thank you.
this wire. It's a big wire, big plug.
And Eric, does Starlink not have something to do with video cameras? Some of our remote cameras for wastewater?
I don't know, man. I just turned the computer on. I have internet. I don't know nothing about it.
We'll research it.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Okay. Any other questions on the claims?
I move to approve claims comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry.
Go ahead.
Myron Walmo,
Yeah.
what's the infatuation with this interest charge?
Okay.
$100, that's a lot of money. What's gonna happen, like it has been going on last term, that interest charge was on there just about every month. What's the problem?
Let me look.
Is that because we're carrying a balance on that card? That they're-
We should
Yeah,
be.
probably because we only do claims once a month.
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
the wrong time of the month.
Yes. So I think hopefully that's the reason why, is because we were only doing claims once per month. And so it was opposite of our billing cycle. We do have a new credit card. So once this one is paid off, which should be with this set of claims or the next set of claims, we have a new credit card through Valley Bank.
You're changing cards.
Yep, we are changing cards. And the reason we changed cards is because of the former town clerk was the only authorized person. So we weren't so when we figured out the $2 charge from Facebook and that was flagged as a scam,
Right.
we couldn't even authorize Eric's new card because we didn't have the access to do it. And they would, I spent 45 minutes with Chase arguing with them, like, what do you do when people die? What is, and they just wouldn't back down. So we're going to ultimately close that account and we have a new account with Valley Bank.
All right, I see quite a bit of computer equipment.
Yes.
Has the computer equipment been brought back to the town offices from the ex-IT?
So the previous administration, I have been told that anything was returned. However, I don't have an inventory. And then also the previous administration allowed the former IT work from his own private device for town IT. So that won't be coming back because that was a private piece of hardware.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other discussion? Or do we need a second?
Yeah, I motion to approve claims as
Okay.
written.
I'll second. Any other discussion? Okay, call the vote. Mr. Wood?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, now we are on to an appointment of Mr. Bob Bailey to the planning board. I think he will be an excellent addition. I believe he is an architect. Is that correct?
Correct. Bob's been on the tree board for, I think, a couple of years
I
now.
think it's about
So,
a year, yeah, a
Okay.
year, maybe two, yeah, year and a half. So,
Yeah, and I've done work for Bob, and known him for 25 years, probably. He was, formerly, the head of the Historical Association, I think, in Virginia City.
Oh.
It's that,
HPAC,
yeah,
yeah, okay.
so, but
Well, we will take willing members to serve on the planning board.
How many open seats are on the planning board?
So currently, there is
for.
Corey. Susie, Haley, Lyndon, Bob now. So,
3 now.
so the state statute requires that we have 7. And really, ultimately, Susie is a non-voting member and Corey is a member of the town commission. And the way that our structure works, so a recommendation will come from the planning board and then it comes to the commission. So Corey actually would go twice. In a perfect world, we would have 7 members that are not
On the commission.
on the commission or a staff member, even though Susie's position is, but ultimately, talk to our legislators, we'd really like to lower that down to, 3 to 5 planning board members and have them do it by the size of town. Because it's kind of interesting that the number of planning board members outweighs the number of commissioners needed, so.
Does it not currently require one of us to be on the planning board? That's the impression I was under.
I think it does, and I think you would be the non-voting member in that case.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So lots of room for.
Lots of room for recruits. Tell all your friends.
It's a good time.
It is a good time. Actually, it's a really important time. We have a lot of great things coming up. We'll be doing an annexation plan. We'll be redoing the zoning, subdivision regulations, all sorts of good stuff, which kind of set the course for the town of Ennis for the next, good while. So if you have opinions, that's a great place to express them and to be involved. So, but with that, can I get a motion to?
I move to appoint Bob Bailey to the planning board.
I'll second that.
And he lives in town.
He lives in town. He lives on Morris Creek Court. Yep. Okay, call the vote. Ms. Hankins?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
All right. Well, our next agenda item is Ability Montana presentation. They are here representing Ability Montana, so I will let them introduce themselves and take it away.
Hi, I'm Scott Berkenbuhl. I'm the Chief Executive of Ability Montana. And we're a Center for Independent Living. There's a brochure for each of you to describe a little bit about what a Center for Independent Living is and does. But in a nutshell, we help people with disabilities. And we try to empower people with disabilities to live as independently as they choose to in their homes and communities, and try to keep them out from having to become institutionalized because that's not as a bad road to go down. But anyway, we also do, one of the things that we do is we do systems advocacy work. And it was such a pleasure for you folks to invite us to come here tonight to tell you a little bit about our organization and the things that we do. And I brought some of my staff, Lacey Keller and Haley Kowalski and Ricky Burns. And they're gonna talk to you a little bit too about more of their specialties that we do. And we own Camp Bull Wheel down by Barney Bridge. Now that was donated to us about 1.5 years ago. And so we offer adaptive fly fishing and floating trips out of there. We have adaptive equipment, and so we can float electric wheelchairs on a pontoon raft and not drag on the bottom on the Madison. So, but we have adaptive equipment for all these folks as well, and we're becoming pretty popular. We're oversubscribed most of the time, and so that's been a great thing, and we're going to hopefully be part of the Ennis community for a long time. And so with that, Lacey, did I miss anything that we should cover?
I'll just add, again, I'm Lacey Keller. I am the Independent Living Program Manager for Ability Montana. I also have lived in this community for quite a few years and have been a part of this community. So I'm really excited that we got to come and talk a little bit more about who we are. Our focus as we come in and be able to talk to councils and to governing bodies is just the importance of how accessibility improves our communities, and just the more accessible that we can be in all aspects of our communities allows for everyone to be fully included and to be a part of it. It's good for the community members, it's good for business, it's good for tourism, it's good for every aspect of what we appreciate in this valley, in this town. And so our goal is to come and talk about how that can happen and how we can partner with you to make it possible, and to provide resources to help you guys when you guys are making decisions on your planning boards, when you guys are talking about zoning and policy and upgrading these communities and deciding what your building policies will be. We would just love to be a part of those conversations. And more so, we would love to help you guys be able to reach out to individuals in the community with disabilities who need this access to be a part of these conversations, and how we can help bring that community of folks into these meetings, into community chats. We want to be included. And so we're really excited to be part of this conversation. We're excited to meet you. We brought you some gifts, just some accessibility guidelines that you guys can use in your own conversations and share with your communities. We have an ADA coordinator here who we hope that you'll get to know a little bit more, because he's got so much information that he can provide, and he's such a great resource. And I do just want to add, and I want Haley to speak a little bit too, that the best thing about us is that we're not an authority. We're not here to come down on everybody. We're not here to come tell you all the things that you're doing wrong. We are truly here as a resource and as a way to just open up the conversation of how can we make our communities more accessible for everybody so that we can all be a part of it. So thank you so much. And Haley, I just wanted her to add just one cool program or project that she's working on just with community chats, and she'd love to invite you to join.
Yeah. Well, so I kind of talked last time I was here about our walk audit that we did back in December. So I brought like a little report from that if you guys wanted to look through it. I also have a digital copy I can email. But it was really successful. And that kind of led into some conversations just around the need for more conversations about accessibility, and especially within the community and led by the community. So with that, we've started hosting monthly meetings where it's really just like a casual opportunity to get together and start talking about what we're seeing, what we're experiencing, especially having folks there who live in the community who do have disabilities, getting them in a space where they can really share that lived experience, I think really makes it impactful. And yeah, hopefully from there we can create some like community-driven ideas and direction for different projects too, whether they're like really small or really big, just really making the community feel part of that, which has been awesome. So I'll have another one next month that I'd love for any and all of you to be at.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did I miss the meeting that you guys had? Was it last Friday?
It was yesterday.
We're having another one.
Yeah.
We'll mail you the invitation.
Text him 10 minutes before.
I almost did. I didn't want to be too pushy. Yeah, there'll be another one next month. I'll believe you more about it.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for us? Do you have anything?
No, I'm definitely excited about it. I think our crosswalks are something that has been in dire need of improvement and has been for a long time. And I think having you all be a part of that discussion when it comes in front of the commission, I think is paramount for getting something to happen. So, yeah.
And in one of our conversations, you had mentioned the possibility of helping us to get funding to do some of these things. Is that one of the aspects of your organization?
I mean, our goal is to always help, find ways for you to get funding to be able to make things more accessible for sure. We do have within, on the back of this, there's a QR code, and I sent it to you. It's one of the links that I sent to you as well. There is some information there in terms of things like tax breaks and different things. But yes, our goal is always if there's a way to get this paid for, if there's grants out there, we're here to help find that because it is expensive. We acknowledge that. And so we don't want that to be the barrier. And again, that's something that Ricky as an ADA coordinator, Haley as a community member, there's just, all of us are here to help in any possible way.
So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Ricky Burns II. I'm the ADA coordinator for Ability Montana. A short visual description, I have short brown hair. I'm about 5'2", and I'm wearing a blue shirt. For those that might be visually impaired or watching this from another place and can't see. I want to explain a little bit about this book that Lacey's holding that I put together for you all. When we did your ADA walk audit, and we did the walk audit here in Ennis, it was easy to see that there are a lot of things that you all are working on and trying to improve. Things like the accessible parking in front of the library, and these new buildings that are going up having accessible entrances. And there are accessible places throughout your town, which are wonderful. And one of the things in this book, it is sectioned off in different regions. The first part of this book talks about ADA accessibility in small towns. There's an entire guide that was put together by the federal government that is with the ADA for small towns, and it points out some of the easy ways that you can improve your small town. It kind of presents some of those opportunities for you. So that's section 1. Right behind that is section 2, which talks about ADA for small businesses. And it gives some of those easy fixes that you can do for your small business to improve the accessibility of that business. And then I included 2 big things. The third part of the section is readily achievable barrier removal. And so these are things that you can use all over town that are easy to do, that are kind of what we consider low hanging fruit. And it's a checklist. So you can go through the checklist and say, hey, that's something we can do, or that's something we can do. And you can slowly work through that to find easy ways to improve the town. Behind that is the ADA checklist. The ADA checklist is the one that the federal government put together to help us get the guidelines as to exactly what makes it ADA compliant. And it goes through each thing. So there are priorities. Priority 1 is always approaches and entrances. How do you get inside a business, right? Because if you can't get inside, you can't use it. And when we talk about good access is good for community, we talk about some people going out to dinner, and it's a group of 3 or 4 folks. But one of the people in your party is sitting down in a wheelchair and needs access to that business. If the access isn't granted at the doorway, that family moves on and the business loses the fourth party. So they're not just losing money on one person, they're losing money on multiple people. So how do we work together as a community to bring accessibility across Ennis so that when the people come to our town to visit, they bring in their group of 10 friends or they bring in their family of 4? How do we make it accessible? So that starts at the entrance. So priority 1 is approaches and entrances, and it goes through what makes an approach accessible or enterable. And then priority 2 is always access to goods and services. How tall is the counter? How tall is that table? If we put shorter legs on that, could someone in a wheelchair use it? Does that change the business? Do I have to spend lots of money to make the legs shorter? Probably not, but that's easy. That's easily achievable. Something that was brought up yesterday in our discussion was the bags at Madison Foods for produce. The bags are up above, right? But if we move the bag holder to the bottom cabinet where the produce is, everyone can reach it. 5 minutes, not even $1. And we can make that accessible change. And it changes everyone's dynamic. If you're holding a baby and pushing a stroller and you're trying to reach up and get a bag, like, what if you hurt your shoulder? You pull your shoulder out because you fell or slept on it wrong. All of a sudden, the bags are hard to get. So something like that, easy, removable change, changes the entire perception and the entire shoppability of that store. Access to goods and services is priority number 2. Priority number 3, restrooms. They call them toilet rooms. Don't ask me why. Restrooms. Easy changes in a restroom. Did you know that an accessible stall, if it only has a handle on the outside, that doesn't make it accessible? Because once they get in, how are they going to close the door? So if you go get that $1.50 handle and attach it to the inside of the accessible restroom door, they can pull it as they wheel themselves in. Easy change. How high are the accessible bars in the bathroom? Are they too high where someone can't use them to actually sit on the toilet? Little changes, just minor looks at how tall is something, how far is something. That access to those goods and services, can someone get something off that shelf or off that table without having to ask for help? The worst thing we can do is make somebody ask for help when they're already at a disadvantage. The best thing we can do is provide help from the start so that they never have to ask. Nobody wants to feel like a burden, whether they are disabled or they are fully abled. No one wants to ask for help. So providing accessibility makes it easy. And then we're doing the best for our community because everyone can use it. Everyone can shop it. Everyone can live here and feel empowered to be independent. The last part is priority 4, and it's an additional access. And it just goes over some other key features that make things accessible. So I hope you'll use this guide to improve your town, and feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or concerns or would like more information, because that's the way we do it. We work together as a community. That's what brings us all up together. This is a club you can join at any time for any reason, whether by age, accident, or design. Making your town accessible is easy if you all work together. So thank you for your time, and I do appreciate it.
You're a cheerleader.
Speak very now.
Yes, you do.
Thank you.
Well, and one thing I didn't mention, we're a nonprofit organization, so all the things we do, all the services we do are free of charge to the people that use Camp Full Wheel. We charge no one anything other than the expenses it takes them to get there. Once they're there, we take care of everything from there on. And as well as these services here, and anytime you want to chat with us or just have a conversation, we're available to do that anytime. And there's no charge for any of our fees. There's no fees for any of the things, any of the work that we do. Because we live on grants. And so if you find a grant, we can also help you write it and get it submitted. We won't help you manage it. If you get one, you got to manage it yourself.
Okay, fair enough. Great, well, thank you so much for coming and visiting us and holding these talks throughout the town. So I think it's, yeah, a good place to start, and a good place to work together. So it's achieving more when we work together. So and having open and honest conversations is really good too. So yeah, I appreciate it.
We'll get out of your way, but we're gonna leave these for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's have it right up there. That would be great.
I just want to
We
give you.
just want to help it, and it's a wonderful town to be great.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
don't realize everything until you.
Point a little line, we just want to elevate Ennis.
Yeah.
You don't realize.
Access elevates us all.
Access elevates us.
Last night, not too long ago.
Well, thank you so much. You're welcome to stay for the rest if you'd like.
Yeah, you don't realize how much. Until you are around somebody until you're affected, right? And it sucks. And even when I started my restaurant, I had the ramp and everything there, so that's why, but yeah. Now I want to upgrade.
Thanks so much, Ricky. Nice to see you.
Thanks.
But yes, and I appreciate you for that. Let me know how I can help you. I really want to.
Thank you. You live in town? You want to join the planning board?
Lacey lives here, doesn't she?
Did you like see?
But she was,
Oh,
yeah,
no,
she doesn't
she-
live in town.
I'll start working on this. I'm gonna go door to door and figure out who lives in town.
Yeah.
But I'm always happy to help, just a phone call away or an email, and I'm happy to come and consult if
Okay.
necessary.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so our next agenda item is our personnel policy manual. I just kind of wanted to start a conversation on this. So I only want to spend, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. We don't have to, eat the whale all in one bite. So I just wanted to kind of get some of your notes. I made it through, and I just wanted to let you know where it came from too. So MMIA had a template. West Yellowstone just updated their personal policy manual, or personnel policy manual in 2024. Other small towns that I talked to were in the same boat we were, that they haven't done it in over a decade. So I copied and pasted, attached to nothing, so edits are welcome. So,
I just noticed that the police department was still referenced in there.
well, and I left that in there because I think we need to have a conversation because we haven't dissolved that.
Right.
It's literally a
I figured
department
that's
with no employees, and so that's another conversation that we need to have.
Okay.
So,
Is that how you want to do it going forward? Like I sent you edits today, he just wants to
Oh.
continue reading through it and sending you edits?
or if there was, yeah, maybe I'll compile edits based on section. Does that sound good? And then we can take it section by section? Is that reasonable? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Myron.
I got on, is there an age limit on the dependents?
Think a national policy is it's age 26.
25 or 26.
Yeah.
If they're a full-time student.
26?
Yes.
If they're a full-time student.
Oh,
So if you've got a child going to,
okay.
Yeah, college these days takes 5 years to get out of.
Or if, in my circumstance, I was in the military, and then I had the GI Bill to consume, and I finished college when I was 26. And my parents claimed me as a dependent.
Well, 26 will take you through a master's program, basically.
That's remarkable. I went in service at 17, and my parents disowned me from there on. Not really, but.
I did have a question on the HSA qualified. So typically on an HSA plan, the employee sets aside a portion of their consumable money after taxes. Actually, it comes out before taxes. It comes out before taxes, so they'll set aside a certain amount of money that they designate. And then usually the company or us would match to a certain degree.
oh, okay.
I don't know if you talked about that, but that's typically how an HSA, it doesn't have to work that way, but that's typically how it works.
Okay, so, this that I gave, I got this just, before we left, it's from the MMIA, so, we have to, the one that was online. I'm trying to see, maybe I need to go a different route.
And is the co-insurance new this year?
What? I don't know. I think this is actually from last year,
Okay.
and then adding
So
for.
on this sheet where you see all Montana providers and non-Montana Cigna providers, On the Bridger plan, they'll pay 80%. They will pay, once you pay your deductible, they will only pay 80% of your bills.
But then there's a maximum out of
Then, but
pocket,
you,
right?
yeah, then you hit a maximum out of pocket, but, so you would be responsible for 20% of the bills until you hit your max out of pocket.
Is that how it's typically been?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the new way they do insurance, which is,
Which even the max out of pocket is.
that's the OOP. It says in here.
Okay, so this is the form that was in the packet that we need to,
This one doesn't say that it's in here.
yeah, it's in there. So this is the form that we need to fill out by April 16th here.
March.
March 16th.
Oh, does it say March 16th?
That's what I was told this year by MMIA.
Oh, I thought it was April 16th.
No, you're right. You're right, sorry.
Okay,
You're correct.
okay, I will double check, just to make sure that we are on the correct one, but I don't think this has ever come to the commission before. The years when I was on the commission, we'd always get to budget time and we were like, oh, and then it was like, well, it's already been decided. So, so currently, and this is just how we want to put it in the manual. This is why I brought it now. So currently, employees get to choose out of these ones what they want. So they just choose. So, and then it's the dental, vision and everything. And then, I don't know what the bundling of employee must select. Okay, so we don't bundle. They get to just choose if they want something. Okay. And then this
We
one.
get to choose which plans we offer, right? Or the MMIA. we have to
No, so
offer
the
all.
venue plan is we offer all of them. So we, and I think currently we're covering 100%, is that correct? Okay, and we're currently covering 100% of insurance. So,
Didn't that change? Didn't somebody edit a draft?
was that for new employees coming
It was
in?
for
Yes.
new,
Yeah.
everybody else
New
is
hires.
grandfathered in.
But, yeah. But did that
Starting
ever-
when?
I don't know, did it ever take place? That was after.
It was, the plan I remember was that you did for public works, for new hires.
Okay,
Is that correct?
Yes, that's the only one we worked on.
That was all new hires.
Was it with?
But
was it
with insurance, it has to be all or none.
Yeah.
You can't piecemeal it.
That was for everybody. You guys did it for across the board, 90% for new hires, and you left the employees alone.
They did pass something for sure, Eric, or just discussed?
I think it's just
I
discussed.
believe so, yeah.
we can go back and look through
I mean,
minutes.
that or they
Because I
talked.
know on the June 30th, the job descriptions, and I believe the benefit package that you had designed with Mr. Nehan was adopted.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't been able to find a copy of the benefits package. So if you have it, that would be great. So that was adopted. So I just wanted us to look at this. So, and it says for current calendar year, indicate the total number of full and part-time employees. Because it's self-funded, like the rates don't actually come out. They want to know how many people are participating until they can figure it out. And then please provide the number of employees eligible for benefits, the number of employees enrolled. And then what is your waiting period? It's immediate. We currently have 20 hours per week, but I think the manual says something different. So,
28.
No, 30.
oh, I think I read 28.
There was two different.
Or is it two different
It was
spots?
between 30 or 32. I think it was around 30 hours.
In the last discussion or in this?
What was needed to, how many hours average per week was needed to qualify for health insurance was 30. We checked with MMIA because you asked me about it.
Oh, so that's 30, so that,
30.
okay. Oh, wait, the number of hours worked per week to be eligible for benefits regardless of employer contribution needs to be 30 or less.
Yeah.
Okay. And we do.
That's regardless of employer, so that means the employer doesn't have to contribute to that person if they work 30 or less. But if they work 30 or more, they get paid.
Gotcha.
They get paid.
Yeah, okay.
Isn't that just how you distinguish part-time between full-time? It's like 30 hours is what you have to work, anything less than that is a part-time?
It used to be 32 back in the
It
day.
used to be 32.
Yeah.
It's actually 32 for where my insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield, but, it's typically, it is in the private sector, it's a decision of management, how many hours that they wanted to designate as full-time, and you get to choose. This is just a benchmark of where an employee gets their insurance paid for or not.
Gotcha, okay.
It's the only.
Is there any
Only-
like hybrid that if you work as a, say,
It's typically, they do a look back period.
okay,
So each year they're gonna do an audit, how many hours did these people work? And you're gonna have to fill in the blanks. And if on average, someone was more than 30 hours a week,
yeah.
then they qualify.
I'm wondering if we do something, if someone's just half-time, or I don't know.
If they're half-time,
employees,
you
If we have
just have
half-time
to-
employees that get half-time, or do they get full? Go ahead.
Yeah, we used to have an employee that was, I think she worked 24 hours a week. It was maybe half-time, and she paid half of the town. paid half.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I'm just
because
wondering if that,
half-time should be half paid, right?
or half contribute,
Right,
contribution.
50%,
Yeah, okay, okay, so I guess that's what I need to figure out with them, how,
Because the main issue with the town of Ennis is we cannot pay a high wage. So the benefits is what draws people in
yeah,
and keeps them here. So the more benefits we can offer them, the better we will have a chance of recruiting them.
yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
So, okay. Let's see, and then it goes for 20 hours a week, and then is the contribution for the city town prorated per employees working. That would be, okay, so prorated, so that would need to be in the book as well, or the policy manual. Does your city town contribute to employees that waive out of the medical plan? So we do not, it's either you take the insurance or you don't. So, does the city or town elected officials and contracted executive positions participate in benefits? No. So if there's anything on that sheet that we want to change, now is our, and we don't have to decide tonight. I just wanted to get you guys to think about, get information from employees as well. Okay, so let us know.
Yeah, 2 questions. When are you hoping to finalize the policy manual? And circling back to Commissioner Lee's question, how would you like questions or edits, or does it work in your draft that you sent out?
Yes, you could do, if you want to take it by section and just submit it, and then maybe I can compile them by section, and then we can talk about them. Does that seem to work for everybody? So we're not, the policy manual, like if we can get this, done in the next, few months, I would like to see that, So it hasn't been done since 2014, so it's been about 12 years. If there's some big sticking points, just let me know. So, but if there's small edits, then we can kind of go from there, so. And then, so we can kind of go from there. So I just wanted you all to see that. Okay.
So I guess I would like to vocalize, I think, to legitimize the mayoral position a little bit more so that it is at $8,500 a year. I know, is it not immediate changes? Can we not do like benefits for insurance? I know we can't change the pay structure on a current administration.
Or for current for yourselves, but we could allow the commission to participate at some level too.
It might be a drawing card because we didn't have that many applicants.
Yep, since the last couple of elections have, we've had more seats available than interested people. So, and maybe say, hey, you can choose, I don't know, something to think about.
I would check with MMA and see if that's doable since we're not technically employees.
Well, it's on there though.
Yeah.
Does it allow elected officials or contracted positions to participate?
Says no.
Well, we answered no, that's our.
Oh, you answered.
No, I haven't, this was just.
This is last year?
This is last year, and so they're asking if we want any changes for this
Okay.
year. So that's where we're at. So,
That was, yeah, so that was changes.
so I just wanted to, and then we can calculate also, I believe it's 6 mils that we're allowed to use for the permissive levy that goes just to health insurance. So we can calculate that,
It'd be nice to have an actual figure when you say 6 mils versus what we're paying versus what it actually is.
Sure, yes, I will get that number. Yeah, we need to take our market value and then multiply it. So I will get that figure for you so we can see what that looks like. So
That'd be very helpful. So you will take my comments with what, and put them with the.
yes, with the other comments, I've got them right here,
Okay,
Susie. So Susie's comments were,
Pretty much covered most of them.
yeah. So,
Can we address the, basic life and AD&D coverage?
sure.
I know the company I work for offers it and we pay a total of $1.80 a month for it, for
Wow.
$10,000.
Oh, okay.
That coverage. It's not a huge amount of money, but it is a nice perk in case something happens to an employee. Sure. The family is helped out with final expenses.
Okay, so I'll find out what the rates are on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it should be pretty cheap.
And that's life insurance?
Life and, accidental death or dismemberment. Yeah. And if we get to choose the amount of coverage offered,
Okay.
because I think 10,000 is a pretty decent number for final expenses, yeah.
For $1.
Because the more, the higher it goes up, then it becomes taxable to the employee.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did lose an heir a few years ago, so.
We're talking about HSA, is that in here somewhere that I missed?
This one, this is a high deductible. So it's an HSA qualified, so it's a high deductible savings plan.
Yeah.
So basically the employee is allowed to sock away, I think it's like $3,500 for an individual and like $7,000 for a family, tax-free. And with an HSA, it can roll over years. And as they pull money out to pay expenses, that money is not taxed either when they pull it out. It's basically a way to get your medical expenses deducted from your tax return without putting it on your tax return. Okay. Yeah. But most HSA plans are employer matching contributions. Not all of them.
So I'm assuming because all the employees have always had the best of the best, that's never been brought up, so there's nothing in policy for that, correct?
Well, the reason most people turn it down is if you look at the deductibles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's $6,400 for one individual. That's your out of pocket. It's $3,300 for your deductible. So you're gonna spend $3,300 on your deductible, and then you've got another, what, $3,100 you have to make up before the insurance kicks back in, so.
But that's
And for families, it's like 12,000 out of pocket, 6,000 for your deductible, that's a huge amount of money. Most people don't choose it for that reason.
You should be self-employed.
But most companies offer them, because if you look at the policy,
Yeah.
it's almost $800 less than the highest one on here, so it's cheaper for the employer, and the employer just turns around and makes contributions to their HSA to offset.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
So what's, isn't there a maximum, like self-employed 4,500 for HSA?
Yeah.
Per year, and then what's the,
It's higher for if you're employed. I think it's, well, I know for the FSA, it's like 3,400, 3,700 a year. HSA is about the same.
would there be some sort of cap that the town would do so they're not matching some ridiculous amount of money?
Well, there's only a cap how much you can put into it each year.
Okay.
So for a family, I think it's like $7,500 is all you can put in
$8,400.
for a calendar year, yeah. For a
So,
calendar
and so
year.
when your
so
deductible is $15,000.
Yeah, it doesn't really help that much.
Doesn't matter.
So, but I think Mitch is right. The benefits that we offer are outstanding. I'm not looking to change any of that at all, because I think that is the reason why we do have great employees. So, and retain employees is because of the health insurance. So,
I'd like to interject that the final results, just bear in mind that the taxpayers are paying for this.
yes,
Yes, very much so.
very much so. That's correct.
So HSA in 26 is 4,400 if you're, for an individual and 8,750 for a family. And if you're over at 55, you can add $1,000 to that. So,
All right, so some food for thought on how we want to coordinate it to go with the policy manual. So then I can have some other figures for you.
Homework.
Homework, you guys are getting homework. So, and then I noticed there's some formatting errors in here as well, or if there's, so, just let me know. So,
Did I read accurately? Is it 30, you can accrue 30 days of leave and then you start losing? Is that a proposal?
so there is, so that's for disability leave, once you've, once you've exhausted all your other leave. And so if you go to unpaid disability leave, then it's 30 days covered. That's how I understand it. Is that how you understand?
I didn't understand that you had to, after you've exhausted all your others.
Yes.
It says, you think it is?
Yes. Because typically what happens if you're going on, if you have to go on an unpaid leave, and I just went through this with someone who had to have surgery, not myself, but somebody else, that was in the hospital. So they went through their PTO, and then they went to unpaid medical leave. And our handbook states that we will only pay their insurance monthly premiums for 8 weeks after they go on unpaid leave. Then after that, they have to pay the insurance policy amount on a monthly basis. But I think you can write it any way you want it.
Yeah.
30 days, so you get 1 extra month of it, of paid insurance before it goes to unpaid. Yeah. And in order to keep it, you've got to write a check. Yeah. Is there, could we put a cap on how many times you can do disability?
I think in here from reading through it today, it was just, let me look.
I read through it really fast.
Is pregnancy not considered a disability?
It's a short.
No.
Whole different section.
Yeah.
It was in a different section.
It is California.
Okay, so disability
You
leave,
can actually
This
get,
stuff's soft too.
you actually can get, short-term disability from the state in California for pregnancy.
This is why people get sued. I'm just kidding.
Town?
Right, do not.
Montana doesn't offer.
It's an option.
It said only women.
so it says extensions may be granted with the approval of the department head and town executive.
Oh, so it's a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, it's a case-by-case basis.
That's what I was.
After the initial 30 days of unpaid disability leave, the town's contribution to health, dental, vision, life insurance will stop. The employee unauthorized leave, pay will make arrangements with the town to pay health and dental, but it does say, yeah. The number, I guess it's 610C, number 2, extensions may be granted with approval of department head and town executive, so. What's that? Okay, so. All right, I think we've exceeded our time limit on that, so. Do some more homework, everybody give them comments, and we will move through that. Okay. So, okay, our next agenda item, let me just do this, my agenda, is surcharges in our for beer. So our current code calls for surcharges for these extra suspended solids and BOD. So I thought, because if we want to rewrite the whole thing, that's going to take a long time. So why don't we just come to what our code calls now, and then when we have two options to compare, we can do that. Okay. But I first wanted to start out with this one. For those who don't know.
They're over.
Okay. I'll get one for our community members. I just wanted to start out on how our okay, how our system actually works, because I think it's really important to understand. On how our system works. So I'm helped with this, and then Great West put some polish on it, because I think letting our community members know how our system works is really important. So we are one of the few, let me change this, I apologize. The system that we have, a 3 lagoon system, we have that discharges into a river. There's not very many. There's probably, Eric thinks 3 to 4 within the whole state of Montana. He's not exactly sure what happens on the eastern side of the state, but we're kind of in a very unique situation where we have a lagoon type system instead of a water, treatment plant that goes. So we let nature do the work. So essentially, things go down the drain, goes into the main line, and then it goes to the lagoon. And the lagoon works by natural processes of organisms, microorganisms that basically break down the suspended solids and whatever. And then it aerates it, and it's clean, fresh water. It goes through the UV treatment, and then it discharges into the Madison River. So that is how, it's a very basic system on how it works. It's like an old piece of equipment that's low tech, and it just works. As long as you take care of it, it will work. So the other part, and maybe John has different numbers, but conservative estimates is that the Madison River contributes $278 million to Madison County. So it is our duty, not only as the town of Ennis, but the town of Ennis users, to take very good care of this system. So the other part is, if we can't use this system, or if we harm it or it goes bad, we have to put in a treatment system, which what Yellowstone just did. It's $30 million. So.
And Big Sky just upgraded their 15-year-old system with a $38 million system.
Yeah. So, and not to say that's something we shouldn't shoot for. In best practices, should we be discharging into the river? If we're living, if we had everything the way that we wanted to, probably not. But this is the system that we have, and so it is incumbent upon us to take care of it. Okay, so that's where the rate structure comes about from. So basically, those TSS, which is total suspended solids, and the BOD, I forget always what that term stands for. If it's too high of a concentration, that lagoon doesn't work well. So Eric can do some things. There's some bugs to put into it instead of just the natural occurring ones. He's got ones that come in a 55-gallon drum, and they put them through the system and it helps out. But you can get, oh, yes.
Well, just to inquire, is this monitored every day?
Yes.
Monthly? or-
Yep, every day. They daily check it. And so we have a special permit through DEQ to discharge through the river. Okay. So, and we're not the only community that does that, but it's just that we have a lagoon system prior instead of a treatment system. So like Big Sky has their treatment system and then they discharge into the river. So, anyway, so that's where that comes. If you get too big of what they call in the wastewater world, a slug that moves through the system, and then it just drops into the lagoon. And Eric has explained that like basically everything dies around it. And then those little organisms need to work harder. He's got to add ones to come. So that is the reason why for the surcharges. So is to really, our household levels are 200 BOD, is it 200 BOD and 250 TSS, or one way or the other. So anyway, it is just, we want to encourage users basically not to put a slug into the lagoon and to really do everything that we can to do that. And that's why the pre-treatment ordinance was passed in 2022. It's the same concept, is to hold on to that. This is like the second part to that is, okay, so if the pre-treatment is going on, what can we do? So we gathered some different things, some different surcharge rates. I can tell you that they are all over the board. Even Colette was like, there's no rhyme or reason. Everyone they go from, here's a couple of them, but a few of them she's like, they go from 7 cents to $1.89, per pound, or however we want to do this. So we can work through a couple of examples with some man, and then just go ahead, Eric.
About, it's best to stick with the milligrams per liter or like Livingston's, because with the pounds, to figure out that formula and how many pounds you have, you actually have to have flow to make that calculation work, which you'd have to have a flow meter in their sewer. So that's definitely not doable.
Not the way to go. Yeah. I mean, you could use their monthly usage and then calculate, it's more calculations. So I just wanted to see where the temperature with you guys was at. We were asked by one industrial user to come up with the surcharges. I told this story to Eric. I don't want to, and we had this discussion before, I don't want to make it a cost of business, right? That they're like, I'll just pay the fine. So when I was in college, or the surcharge, excuse me, not a fine, surcharge. When I was in college, which was in the 1900s, I had a good friend that lived in Cut Bank, Montana, and she was a Spitfire, but she's like, come to Cut Bank with me. So I'm like, okay. So we are cruising down the highway in I-15 outside of Great Falls and her little red Grand Prix, and we get pulled over. And for everyone of you that know, speeding tickets used to be $20. Okay, so we're jamming out. Oh no, we're getting pulled over. We pull over. Speeding ticket's $20, and she literally says to the trooper, "Well, if I give you $100, can you just radio ahead that I'm prepaid?" I almost died. Luckily, he did kind of chuckle and was like, "No." So I don't want it to be that kind of situation where there is no reverence given to the charge and just building it into the cost of business. I know that's happened in some developmental areas, oh, what's the charge for violating, a wetlands? Oh, it's, whatever, $100,000. Okay, we'll just pay it. We'll just make it part of the budget. I would prefer not to.
What is the alternative to these folks that would be getting this surcharge? You say you don't want to make it a cost of business, but what is the
I
alternative?
just want to make it so that,
A pre-treatment or?
yeah, so they would have to make a concerted effort
Mhm.
to reduce the amount of waste or TSS or VOD. So, and there have been really, one particular user has made enormous strides, which is great. But we just really want to get it to a level that, if it happens here and there, no big deal, but it can't happen on a consistent basis.
Can we do an example? Because.
Yeah, let's do some math. You ready, Mitch? So basically, let me pull out so Livingston's is pretty clear. And maybe it's gonna ask Brenna to get us a sewer rate. What is our sewer rate?
The base rate,
Yes.
$52.53. That's for water and sewer.
So what is it just for sewer?
Sewer is $32.38.
32.38, and then a cost per 1,000 gallons?
$2.72.
$2.72. Okay. So then what is a normal? Okay, so, and we'll just use, I don't know, whatever, 30,000 gallons for an industrial user, just for some math. So for Livingston, it would be, if they're using 1,000 gallons, or 30,000 gallons, that's 30 times 272 is $81 plus 32.38. Okay, just for sewer. So keep that in mind. So you're following me here? Okay. So 81 plus 32.38. Okay, so that would be $113. So how Livingston does it, they just straight up take your sewer rate, so our $13.98, and they just multiply it by 2 based on where your parts per million is. And then if you're in one range, and then it just goes up. And then if you get up over 400, which is double the amount, then it's 15 times your sewer rate. But for like the town, say, the town of Darby, so we'll use that same 30,000 gallons, and we'll say they are using, say, 400 milligrams per liter. So a little more mass. So then you take, and I think our standard is 200 is our most. So we're going to take 200, we're going to divide it by 4, or excuse me, by 25, right? Because it's in 25 milliliter increments of TSS per 1,000 gallons. So 200 divided by 25 is 8. So we're going to do 8 times 2 cents times 30. So 8 times 2 times 30 is equal to $4.80. So, but I don't think that, but that was also for Darby, that was put in 1979. So the trick is no one has updated their surcharges. Rural water doesn't get involved in surcharge rates, so We're literally going with barely any information. So, so 2 cents in 1979, I did a little bit of math, just a quick Google search, it would be 75 cents today. So I don't know if we just want to take the Livingston route and come up with a graduated system like that.
That makes the most sense to me.
Instead of a whole, and then that way people, I guess users will know, you know, like, oh, this is my search, you know, my surcharge.
Can we just take Livingston's rates and just use those?
Yeah, we can just do
Yeah.
the resolution.
Yeah.
I can just put it into the resolution.
Okay, perfect.
We can do that, or we can come up with our own. I will say this.
What? It's hefty, right? Livingston's is.
Livingston.
Well, but for the first, the 200 milligrams, which is what we average, it would be $64. It's twice the base rate. The base rate is 32.
Do we have any offenders over the 400 milligrams
Yes.
per liter? A lot.
A lot of users?
Yeah.
Over the 400?
Yes, we're into the,
Hold on, we have a whole bunch of users over the 400 milligrams.
no, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how many users over 400 milligrams. We have one currently that is testing. So, and it's about 10 times that.
Oh, wow.
It's a real low number. That's over those really low, like 2 tops.
So just so I understand, so 200 milligrams per liter is like.
Normal.
Is
That's the
normal,
average.
according to DEQ standards that have been prophesized to have went up for how many years now, Eric? I mean, they haven't changed for
We
how
haven't
many
changed.
years?
Everybody that we looked
Yep.
at, it's
So-
200, is it
So
200?
the 200 and 250 is based on residential use. That's where that comes from, and that's your average household. And that's also what the numbers were kind of held to also, so.
I went to sleep. I think that's what happened.
So I guess my question is, when was the last time DEQ standards were updated? They've been talking about it for forever. I know we have a capital improvement plan that's just been hanging out in limbo to, you know, do an irrigation, to acquire property to do a irrigation system.
Land
A
application.
land acquisition, and the rationale for it was that that DEQ standards are going to increase. They
Do
have.
you mean lower?
Right, look,
Higher
yeah, we
threshold.
will have, we will be held to a higher standard, and it hasn't happened the entire time that I've been here. It's been talked about for 6 years anyways at town hall.
Our permit's from 2019. And they haven't issued another one because they are kind of holding off, waiting on their. Normally you'd get issued that every year, but they're kind of holding off, expecting higher, you know, limits.
Sure.
But that
Sure.
200 and 250, that's always going to be the same. That's a standard per household number.
And that was in every code that whether they did, that was just the standard. So,
I like Livingston's
yeah,
idea.
okay.
I mean, in their numbers, I think makes sense to me.
I think it's easy to calculate.
Yeah, I mean, it's straightforward.
Well, and it makes it part of your bill, not a fine, which is kind of what I like, you know?
Well, I see 2 sides of that coin, because if it is a fine, then you incentivize someone to mitigate
Yeah.
what they're doing versus, oh, this is just my bill, and then they just forget about it.
Yeah, I think it needs to be itemized on the bill that it's the surcharge rate is, and then hits the multiplier.
Yeah.
Right, and say surcharge, you know, excess BOD, TO, and it would be 2 line items. It would be your excess BOD and then excess TSS, because they're independent.
So 15 for each of them, or like 10 times for each?
That's how Livingston actually had, let me pull up the link here. Hold on. This is, I think I have Livingston's code actually.
I mean, Livingston's like us, they sit right on a pretty
Yeah.
valuable river
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they have to protect.
And they moved before us, yeah.
Yeah.
Can
And how
I,
much of those, Eric, how much of those barrels of chemicals that you have to put in there or the
3,600.
organic?
3,600 a barrel. I do that twice a year now because we use it actually to scrub our whole system. It's actually working really well. I'm pretty surprised. But can I jump in here on this BOD and TSS? I think that the best thing to do would actually be set a limit, and that's it. If it goes over that, you need to haul it off or get fined. You know.
So add that into the resolution?
Well,
And how do you
Where-
calculate
where-
that? How?
wherever your like Livingston, like that stops at 400. There's no 5 or 6 or 7. That stops
Right.
at 400. That's kind of what I'm saying. Anything over that,
So anything over 400, what, we turn their sewer off?
I mean,
It's
we have a pre-treatment ordinance we could find.
We could
Fine.
impose them to pre-treat?
No, they should.
Yes, that too.
Okay.
That.
So how does that happen? Are you just like, do you get 3 strikes, or the second you go over 400, you will install a pre-treat?
Well, that's kind of up to you guys to decide, really. But I would suggest setting a high limit, and anything over that you can require to be hauled off.
Well, then what's in the interim, what's the fine for anything over 400? We don't have a.
For that, I would
Well,
I would look to the pre-treatment ordinance that we already have. That's
Does it say, it doesn't say a fine though, does it?
In the pre-treat.
Yes.
I believe.
I think
Yes.
it just says we renew your business license.
Well, until
mine
you're
was pretty
compliant.
steep.
Which maybe they have to
Yeah,
install a
8
system at
times
that point.
sewer rate for.
So BOD and TSS is 2 separate things because they're 2 separate measurements. So, do we want to adjust the scale, the tiered given here?
I mean,
Yes, ultimately, whatever you need to Eric, that you think's gonna work to encourage or make it mandate.
Eric, did you have a number in mind that once they reach that, they have to haul it off?
Well, I did have a number. I mean, we talked about 500. I mean, that's
okay.
double. And it's still manageable for that lagoon, but it's,
Okay.
If everybody went to 500, would that be a problem then?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, and let me see, and let's see.
So at what point do we, I mean, so if say a customer hits 475, does the town intervene at that time and say, you're about to hit 500, you need to pre-treat?
So the testing takes a while, right, Eric?
Yeah, the testing right now is roughly 2 weeks, but I think it's important that we don't forget about the pre-treatment ordinance. And that's one of the reasons we're even having this discussion, is because this is being forced on a business. So we are still able, And I believe there are fines on there. I remember being asked, and I think the council set it pretty high.
I don't remember saying that. But it was a while ago, I can't remember when I was on the council.
We're gonna pull it up right here. Hold
I'm
on.
just trying to follow up on what Cody said is, you know, once they hit this 500, then the town just comes in, pulls their business license and says, until you get this pre-treated, you can't do business. Or they hit 500 one time and we go in and we give them a fine and we say, now you need to fix this,
Okay, so,
but we don't pull their license.
yeah, so our code, I'm sorry, it's behind you. So it says administrative penalty, this is for the pre-treatment ordinance. When the POTW, which is the sewer system, that's us, finds that an industrial user has violated or continues to violate any provision of this chapter, an individual wastewater discharge permit or ordered issue hereunder, or any other pre-treatment standard or requirement, the POTW may fine such industrial user an amount not to exceed $7,500 per day of violation. Such fine shall be assessed on a per violation per day basis. In the case of monthly or long-term average discharge limits, fine shall be assessed for each day during the period of violation.
Which doesn't make sense to me because you're not getting accurate readings every day, right? If you test it, you're not getting a reading right now.
Yeah.
So this whole, none of this makes sense to me.
I think we would just take it on a monthly. We're not gonna test per day, right? So,
But even per month, I mean. Yeah. I guess that's it.
It's not uncommon for industrial users to have to submit testing to towns monthly. It's not uncommon, especially in those bigger towns. Those industrial users, like Helena's pretty tough on them. And they're required to submit their own testing and have a qualified individual do it. And that's basically because of this whole class of industrial users where this company fits into. We're actually dealing with big city problems in a little city lagoon, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think
Yeah.
I have a question.
just 1 second, please, go ahead.
I honestly think that, you know, if you're talking about industrial, which has to be defined, because there are different industries in industrial. But I think anytime someone applies for a business license and it's in industry that the town defines that has to pre-treat, then we do that at that point and not let them get to where they're poisoning our lagoons.
Mitch,
That should be the future.
right. Mitch,
I know right now,
DEQ defines industrial, commercial, and residential users. And they are up in there.
yeah, but there's gotta be a definition.
So that would
somewhere of what
probably, so we would have to
industrial is.
amend the code in a couple different places.
What's the
So-
difference between industrial and commercial?
It's certain, they do have it, like Helena has it. There's like 5 or 6 different categories. Okay.
I'll email you the definitions from DEQ tomorrow. I'll shoot them off to you.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Eric.
There you go.
So how long do we have what's on the screen? How long has that been?
So 2022.
2022.
And how many times has that been enforced?
I don't know.
There's been attempts,
So
but
I
it's
think,
never been enforced.
well, I think this is why we are in talks with one.
There was,
because-
yeah, there was
And how-
attempts and now it's getting taken care of.
So we just attempt and then they don't do it and we just say,
Well,
okay.
no, so
they're
they're,
working on it.
yeah, so they're working on it, but then, they had asked like, oh, well, the code calls for surcharge rates. Can we see what those surcharge rates are? So that's what has brought us to this discussion tonight, is setting the surcharge rates.
Well, I agree with John that we go with the Livingston rates. I'm good with that.
Okay.
I also agree with Eric that if they go over a 500, there should be immediate action by the town.
Yeah, and how do we set that number so you have $7,500 that you can charge? I guess, we have an individual that continues to do it. I know you can maybe pull the business, but how do we get to that number? Do we just, says we can charge up to
Oh, yeah, I think that's the discretion of
who?
Ooh.
you're looking at it.
I'll say this, if you don't have water, you can't make waste.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just shut water.
Oh, nice.
No flow in, no flow out.
Yes,
Okay.
Well, I think it was mentioned that their business license is pulled.
it could be, there's.
We
okay,
copy and
trucks
pasted
and
from-
hallways, it says.
Somewhere more.
Okay, that is,
Do you remember? No, because Bozeman's was like a small town somewhere in the north. Remember collected it, or some different, Dan did it. Gerald did it. I got it, somewhere. Maybe Gerald.
okay, so,
They suspend water service.
yeah, so it is,
Actual or threatened discharge. Yeah, we can turn it off. Okay.
One for sure.
So
okay,
then I guess the $7,500
And they were,
fee, do we need to define when that starts? Does that start at the 500 milligram level or?
I think this is when they're not, let's see. So maybe after we set it after they had, because it says has violated or continues to violate any provision of this chapter. So we could say,
So we give them a warning, you've reached this level, that's why your surcharge is this high. If it reaches this level again, these fees apply.
yes.
Okay, got it. I understand.
And
Make them an offer to give them the fine of the 7,500 or put a retreat on.
Yeah, 7,500 a day until they put a retreat on.
Well, that puts a retreat on.
That does. That's motivation right there. Yeah.
I guess I didn't have, okay, so I guess we'll do it in next month's meeting is the actual resolution. I thought it was in here. Maybe you know what, I put it in and then I took it out because it had numbers in it and I wanted us to.
Yeah, I thought it was,
It was at one
it
point.
wasn't just me going crazy.
Yeah, no, I pulled it in there because then I had actual numbers in there and I was like, that's not a good decision. So, so at the next meeting, I will have it, so it reflects Livingston's, that's the consensus, that we reflect Livingston's sewer charges and.
Well, it does two things. First of all, it simplifies the calculation, but also it keeps up with our sewer rates. So if our sewer rates change, this changes automatically, so it's not
It does.
Not
Yeah.
1979.
Right?
It's not a flat fee, it's adjustable.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, that's great.
Sounds great, okay.
I love things when they're automatic.
Okay, commission comments. Commissioner Ranson.
oh, how much? Glad to be back already. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, glad to have you.
Yeah. This is gonna be huge at some point. Our town is very on the ADA.
Yes.
It's very unuser friendly.
I can tell you that crosswalk right in between the Dollar and the insurance building that's going in. Not only is that a terrible place to cross because you get run
All
over,
dangerous.
but the sidewalk there is a lip like this big, and
Broken.
I've seen people
Broken.
tripping over.
Yeah.
Yeah, for years.
We got in contact with that gentleman last year and he was supposed to pull that up and replace it because, that is up to the business owners there. And we actually had planned, I was going to replace.
We're kind of right in the middle between the two.
Yeah.
It's whoever, well, it's in front of whoever your property line is.
Oh, so that
Yeah.
little log cabin there,
Yeah.
someone actually owns it, okay.
So, yeah, so there is, that'll be another discussion, but I'm sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
But no, it's just, yeah, it's totally a discussion that we need to start. Even a handicap spot on the other side of the street. There's one at the library. There's not one on
There's not all,
the west side.
on the whole south side,
South side.
the whole length of Main Street, there's not
Right.
one.
You're correct.
So we should maybe have one per block,
Something.
so.
Well, the nearly new thought they had one in front of their business, and I contacted DOT. And they have no record of them applying for a handicap
They-
spot.
They were giving the opportunity to apply to put that in there. And
Yeah.
at one time, they were gonna, I don't know what happened.
See what that is, so maybe they could help. Okay.
Yeah.
But not even just parking spots, but sidewalks and entrances, everything.
Even my interest is, I have the ramp and everything, and watching people, like, I have a gentleman that comes in a lot that works at Camp Fullwell. And he's independent by himself and in a wheelchair, and it's even a challenge to get in my place, and I have the ramp and stuff because of the hump at the entrances. It's like all this stuff that you didn't think of before you have somebody that.
And automatic doors, like Karen just got the library.
And it may be one of those things.
I didn't think about handles, I wrote that down. I didn't think about handles. I didn't think about bathroom. I didn't think, now I gotta go recheck all that stuff.
Yeah, and maybe it's one of those things in our capital improvement plan that we lead by example.
Yes. Yes.
I'll say that. Commissioner Wade?
I don't have much, I just, had a person come in and yap at me today about something, and it's a library issue, so I was hoping to run into you. They were concerned that there were some cars parked behind the library that are always there, like 24 hours a day. And why are they there and other people can't park?
Because it's the tenants next door, it's
Oh,
technically,
is that what it is?
and it's technically public parking.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's been
I
on.
don't believe there's a no 24-hour parking.
Yes, and we were, at one point, because it's been an ongoing issue for probably a decade, they're like, well, if you impose some kind of restriction there, they'll just park on the highway in front of the library.
All right. Yeah, I didn't know what to tell. I said, I don't know, but I
Yeah.
can figure this out.
So that's,
Here.
so that's the reason why. So unless we want to, you know, do enforcement on Main Street,
Can you?
yeah, you can.
That's a
Well,
legit
you-
car lot back there. It's not
You
just
have to have the
parking.
ability.
We can do no overnight parking for sure.
Yeah.
In our parking lots.
But you have to then enforce it.
Yeah.
So,
What did Eric say?
I'm sorry, Eric, I missed your comment.
Okay. That's a legit car lot back there. That's not just somebody parking.
Carla. That's what I said.
And hey, think about this. What's the liability of those cars in our parking lot all the time? Just curious.
Yeah.
Just
that's a
curious.
good
They're
point.
not our cars.
Maybe we should
We have to find a way around
come up with a solution. Okay.
That's all I have.
I got nothing.
I don't have anything, but I would like to get this put on our website, because I think everyone in town needs to know how this works.
that.
Yeah, I think we did post it on Facebook one time, you know, and so we'll get it on our website.
Yeah,
For sure, right? So,
Have you found website ideas or
oh, it's coming, Christine. Yes.
What's
I'll get
that
to that.
idea?
is that what DIS, do they do that?
No,
You have to hire
We voted
independent.
on it last meeting.
We voted on it last meeting.
Yeah, we got it last.
Yeah, so it's in the works.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You voted for it.
but like,
Here.
is it happening?
Yeah,
Well,
it's
she hasn't
happening.
given her comments, so.
Yeah, just wait.
Well, we said website, and I was like, yes, so speaking of the website. That's how I get to my commissioner packet and the website.
Yeah. Let's see, so I'll just pull it up just for reference. It'll be very similar to something like, oh, look at that, they've got stuff going on.
Oh,
So it's
not
very,
that I've been looking for long.
but it's very simple, it looks like you can have a scrolling thing, they had, so it's a very simple website, but I think very,
I like the scrolling thing because it catches your eye. and
yeah,
you can put
I do too, I
announcements.
hadn't seen that before, so,
Yeah.
okay.
No.
So that is, they're working on the transfer of stuff,
So,
so that is where we're at, okay.
Yeah, we have plenty of capital improvements. I think that, we need to be putting stuff towards better wastewater treatment plant is one of them I'm gonna push all day long because of, 3 in the state dumping into the river, and a lack of DEQ standards that have kind of just stayed at whatever level. They haven't went up in the Madison River is our jewel. So we need to take care of it. I don't have any drywall to install if I don't have a healthy river out there. So, yeah, other than that, I don't really have anything.
Yeah, so we've been busy. So tomorrow, our payment portal goes live. Brennan and I will be working with VMS Pay, doing a tutorial in the morning. So you'll see, on our old website, there will be a pay now button. And so you'll be able to pay all your fees that way. So that'll be really handy for people to use. Let's see, we have been making other good strides. Mitch will be happy to know that Jody Rogers submitted our financial reporting to the Department of Administration on time. She's still trying to figure out the ARPA account. We submitted our letter to straighten out the ARPA funds. We were able to go in and make that change. So now, and correct the reporting. So now we're just waiting from a response back from the Department of Treasury, whether or not they're going to allow us to keep the money that we already spent. So it's ARPA funds that we had already spent, so that we don't have to return them. So that would be really great. Let's see, I was able to successfully get a user that had owed us for water and sewer hookup fees since 2022. They submitted a check, which was very good. So we did that. What else have we been working on, Brenna?
The new camera.
New camera system. So Eric, if you want to give us your feedback on the new system, would be great.
It's not bad at all. It's kind of weird that it's really like close-ups of you guys. It's
Yeah.
Really in your face. I said
that, like I can see what's up your nose right now, Christy.
So I think we can pull that setting
No,
back.
I'm just
Really.
It's just weird.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is really close. So
The sound is great. The sound is great though.
Okay,
Yes,
very
that's
good.
what matters most.
It picked up the gallery too, good?
The gallery.
Yeah.
Maybe your end of sound is bad.
You could hear everything Myron said loud and clear. Oh, I didn't notice the zoomy part.
That's all I was saying. The sound is great. Yes, I did hear Myron. I definitely heard him.
Yeah, so Brennan has been diligently getting water meters installed or helping people make appointments for that. I think after our second letter, we had quite a few call. Tomorrow is the deadline. So if you know of anybody that got a letter and they have not called to pay for their new discounted meter or schedule installation, tomorrow is the deadline, because then we can go and look back at what the grant parameters are and how we can possibly restructure that so all users get a discount if it's possible. So what else? So
And you can pay that online now also?
Cool. So we're looking at restructuring our checking accounts. We have 6 or 7. We probably only need 3. So we're going to work with Jody Rogers on that. 6 or 7.
That'll save on the financial work.
Yes. So we'll see a lot of this and that and kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what we have been up to. So yeah, I'm just working on some compliance with some short-term rentals as well. So, not that there's a bunch of listeners, it's the usual gang here tonight, but I will be sending out some letters for, I think it's just one of those things that I want people to start, taking their trash out on a regular basis. We've got a couple of areas where trash just seems to pile up. And I think it's kind of one of those like, oh, well, my neighbor does it, and then I do it. And then, it's just this flow of like, oh, well, it's okay. And then you look and you're like, wait, that's a big pile of trash. It needs to be, so if we can all just hold each
Well,
other.
with the animals that we have walking around, that's not a good idea to do that.
It's not. And I think, and it's just dogs. We had one that would consistently get into our trash, and then we just bought one of those predator-proof trash cans, and it's been awesome. So, yeah, it's worked out really well. So just a gentle, so I'm trying to gently remind people to do that, to be a good neighbor is all. So, because we're all in it together, and especially since we're a tourist town, we don't want, all of our trash just hanging out. So that's it. Thank you. Sorry, took a little bit longer, but we have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Aye. Tomorrow, emails. That camera. I just didn't go to the website to back it. I haven't looked. Did you email me? I haven't looked. Okay, I'll start tying it together.
Yeah, exactly. So-
Yeah, I've been going to the town, the website.
Yes, I do need to sign, you guys do need to sign. the
Claims, yeah, you didn't pass it.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
Did this, I looked up once. It was
Hello.
like, oh, no, it zooms right into your face.
When you're talking or just in general?
Yeah, when you talk, then it acknowledges you and then it zooms in on you.
Yeah.
So the first when you start talking, it's fine, and then all of a sudden you look up and it's like.
Yeah.
Yeah, that needs to be behind the first row.
Oh,
Yeah.
So you can't see my book.
Oh, yeah. Second.
Yes. I thought there was something else. Oh, yes, there is. Did you get?
Do we need to do?
Sorry, this email's trying to talk to you.
Oh, sorry, I gotta leave the meeting.
No, leave them.